When we change our mindsets, we can change our outcomes. Save our lives from sadness, depression, and anxiety, thus giving us the freedom to live the life we want. Hi, I'm Stuart Haskin, founder of GetSave, and your host of the Movement for Change podcast. Hi, it's Stuart Haskin, your host for the podcast Movement for Change. Today with Jack, in our relationship series, we'll be talking about mental health issues within the relationships. How do we care for our partner, and how do we care for ourselves? So let's go make some change with Jack. Hi, welcome back, Jack. Thanks for joining the podcast. We appreciate your view on healthy relationships and broken relationships and ones that can be repaired and ones that are teetering. How you been?
I'm doing good, and I appreciate, Stuart, that you're even introducing this. It is saving lives. I mean, it's literally saving lives, not only the couple that have struggles, but also people around them. Because when a couple is in distress, the family is in distress, children are in distress, and, in-laws and grandparents. And something that comes up right now as we talk about this, in the relationships, there's also a difficulty arises when there's a mental health issues. And these difficulties are quite profound and affect the relationship and affect people around them. And maybe we can spend a little bit of time just kind of dissecting that.
Yeah, no, I'd love to talk about that because it changes the dynamics. Whether it's like I said, a mental health crisis, that there's an option to move forward, or there's one that's long lasting. Oddly enough, I just read this morning the Porsche family. The gentleman's 79 and his wife, I believe, is 74, and he's filing for divorce because she has dementia, and the relationship has taken it's very weighty on him, and maybe he has an opportunity to live another 6 or 7, 8, 10 years of positive. So I thought it was interesting. And then you had mentioned we'd talk about this. I mean, what do you do? How do you move around a mental health crisis within a relationship?
Right. And we kind of see that mental health issues during the pandemic, because a lot of times couples were in the same room for a prolonged period of time in the same environment. And we've seen a lot of depression, anxiety, frustration, resentments building up. And then probably one of the prevailing difficulties in couples relationship when one partner becomes depressed. Seems to be coming up more and more. And it happens in many different reasons. Maybe there's some history from the family history that there's mental health issues. But also, it's not uncommon to see a woman go into depression after the childbirth. That's a postpartum depression that affects the relationship. And we see men go into depression when they lose their job and they can't find another job, and they feel useless and not
lack of self-worth, for sure.
Yeah. So it's a double whammy. Not only the person gets their own mental health issue, now it's adds to their partner load work to care for them and to make them feel safe and take the load off of them so they can recover. And at some point, it just becomes overwhelming. And
the whole caregiver. I meet caregivers a lot, and I always emphasize take time for you, because it's funny, maybe not in this position, but a lot of times the caregiver is the one that goes down from all the pressure and running around, why the person they're caring for is stable or maybe not even declining, but the other person has worked so hard between balancing the family and balancing the caregiving and probably looking at the finances.
Right. And you can imagine if your parents are sick and you have to provide care for your parents, and then by the time you come home, there's nothing left for your family because you've been already spending that much time. That situation is quite common. There's also situations where one partner is depressed for whatever reason, and the other partner burns out providing care because they have things to do, take care of the family, takes care of the house, day-to-day activities, and I think that becomes a big question. What is your role in a relationship if your partner is sick? What is your role, and how long you can sustain that? before it feels like the situation is hopeless. And many couples struggle with this because there's an innate need to be together and you love this person, but there's also getting overwhelmed with all the work that is added because the other partner cannot get out of bed or can't do anything, just in depressive mood. And many couples struggle with this.
Well, and they, you said they love this person, which they do, but that person has changed, whether it's an addiction or a mental health crisis. That person has changed who that dynamic, who you met, who you fell in love with, who you wanted to be with. Now it's a completely different beast. And it is a good thought of how long can you and should you sustain that kind of relationship?
Right. And most of the people will not give up, right? Most of the people, they fall in love with the person and we make vows for to be there when you're good and to be there when you're sick.
Sickness and health, right? Yeah.
Right. And that's gonna puts us in also tricky situation, right? Especially if there's you take this vows to your heart, which is many people do, and you want to help your partner to recover. But I think many people don't realize that they need to look for external help, because when we get engaged in a relationship, which is especially a romantic adult relationship, we want to be romantic partners. Once it switches to caregiver, provider, and a patient, the romantic part goes away.
Right.
And then the frustration sets in. So getting somebody else to help with this, especially if a person is in depressive mood, talk to a psychiatrist to see if there may be appropriate medications to get the person out of that place. Also, get some mental health therapy to help that person to get out of this place, and then start developing specific rituals at home to help them to stay out of that place, and maybe to start yogas, exercises, going out for long walks. All of these things would help to take person out of that depression. But the biggest thing that keeps them in depression is loneliness, right? If they feel depressive mood and the other partner takes all the load and they're busy every single day, by the time they come home, they're exhausted, in a way that puts that person in a place where they by themselves all the time. And
I mean, what's the magical cure for that? Because the one person says, I'm doing all this stuff just for our family to stay afloat. You've been in bed, you can't get out because you're sad for whatever reason, whether it's a trigger or something happened, or they drink so much they get depressed from the drinking and they can't get out of bed. Because I've dealt with individuals that they're on that brink of how long is long enough, and I've seen decision made where, well, it's pretty much 90% pretty good. That 10% when they're drunk and everything, maybe I'll just turn my, ignore it. They recover. It takes about a week. They're back into the game again. But it still eats at everyone. And so it's, I think it's a super tricky situation.
Well, and those 10% will color the rest of your relationship.
Yeah.
Will color it, and all the good things will disappear. Everything is going to be seen in the light of this distress your partner has. And with alcohol specifically, that particular drug is so insidious that the only way it can go to is to increase the alcohol, right? Because people are chasing this high, and at some point, people go to binge and black out and they can't control it. And with alcohol, what happens, they don't understand that they're in trouble until they lose everything in their life.
Yeah, it's funny because I've had very close dealings with this from a number of people I know, and they make a choice that, well, it's whatever, it's my life, I'm just going to live it the way even though they see things falling down around them. And I think age plays a part in that as well. It's like, for at least the people I know, they're older and they're just, well, forget it. I'm just going to do my thing, and whatever happens, happens. I'm too old to change. I want to just live my life, even though it's probably not the life that they've ever thought they wanted to live, because it's not a great life, getting
Yeah. Oh,
super
absolutely.
drunk or on drugs and failing like that.
And it makes sense, right? Because many people who come and you first talked about alcohol with them, the first position is, I love drinking.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah.
But I can control it. I go to work every single day. Yeah, I come home, I had 3-4 beers and it's fine. And then on the weekends I can drink and not worry about it. The problem is that it goes only one way, right? You can't sustain that level at all times, because at some point you're going to get desensitized to the amount of alcohol you drink, and you're going to drink more. Your liver becomes bigger because it has to process the alcohol. And the more you drink, the bigger it gets. And before you know, you're in trouble. Not only physically in trouble, but also mentally, right? Because now it's hard to be sober. It's hard to feel your partner. And the problem becomes a little bit different. That the partner who is not drinking, they can't compete with alcohol.
Yeah.
Your
For
partner
sure.
is drinking, you can't compete with alcohol. Alcohol will always win.
Yeah.
Because it's much more powerful stimulant that any human being is able to provide. And that's why the partner is in disadvantage. They can't figure out what to do. And a lot of times when we have a therapy with one partner drinking, it's attending AA for 90 days, every single day for 90 days.
Yeah.
That's what we do. And if a partner, if one person recognizes that that's important, their relationship is important, they will do this. But most of the people, they don't see that it will affect their relationship. But we already know where it's going. As therapists, we see it over and over again. There's only one path for alcohol, and that is losing everything.
Yeah. And again, I've seen that more than I wish I had. And it is, I've seen also a partner saying it's me or the alcohol, and that choice never wins out, because they'll try, all right, I'll do this rehab, I'll go off for this, but it doesn't last, because that craving, you got to figure out a way to balance your life with it. But I every time you try and do it for someone else,
Yeah.
then it's not going to be successful.
Yeah, so alcohol is a tough drug, and for people who are trying to recover from it, the best thing is to get a sponsor through AA and maintain it. To visit nowadays, AA is available online 24/7, literally around the world. If you're anywhere within walking distance, you can probably get to an AA meeting pretty much every time.
Yeah, and I think what's positive about it, some people, I don't believe in the steps, I don't believe in this. But it's still accountability. Like, you got to create a support team and be accountable to each other. And that's what a friend of mine's doing now. He's created this, this support system finally. That means they check on each other, and, not that they don't fail. And a lot of the people in it know that, well, this one's going to have a hard time eventually. But I think like I said, I've heard way more positive versus negative regarding it. And it's cost efficient in the sense, because a lot of these rehabs are just ridiculously priced, 20, 30 grand a month.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's stepping that. It's just, if you had a partner saying, all right, here's some tools for you, the one that doesn't have, who's supporting the issue, the person with the issues, because that is that point that, again, that gets lonely too, right? You miss that person you get to talk to and have coffee with, because they're in bed, they're sleeping,
Right.
they're not attentive to you.
I think the best, there's a couple of things. Number one is to start couples therapy, because a lot of times the mental health issues relate to the couple's distress, and especially anxiety and depression, or combination of both, will have something to do with the distress in the relationship, and also maybe distress after having children, or distress with the family. And what we find when we work with couples who have mental health difficulties, issues, many of them recover faster because now their relationship reduces distress, and they're able to connect with their partner. They're not rejected. They're not criticized, blamed, and they're not presented as it's their fault, right? Because it's so easy if one person has mental health issues or an alcohol addiction, it's so easy to say it's your fault that things don't work, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, you're in a relationship, and something happened in the relationship that put one person at a disadvantage for some reason, and especially if there's a propensity, or maybe there's some generational family,
Right.
where some in the family you have lots of alcohol involved, and you may be more likely to be an alcoholic, or if there's a depressive symptoms in a lot of your relatives, then you're more likely to have these depressive symptoms. And then the thing is to guard yourself against this. This is what the relationship is all about, is to know that we have sensitivities, to know that we may slip into the wrong place, and putting out the little barriers and say, this is things that may get us in trouble, right?
Yeah.
You know, when we have a baby, maybe it will feel very depressing the first 3, 4, 5 months after having a baby. Let's see how we can do a care for you.
Right.
How we can care for you. And most of the time, depression comes unannounced, and the partner is blindsided.
Right.
They know what happened, and then now they're switching into this gear of caring for the person. And the first 6 months they care, they put a lot of effort in them, but then it becomes harder and harder. I need my partner. I need my romantic partner here.
Yeah, and plus you have no tools. I mean,
There's no tools.
you didn't go through you didn't get your therapist degree when you got married to have that, just in case that happens. You are looking for figuring out answers on how this happens, and not knowing. It's really tough, you know, to see something like that and trying to navigate through it. And it's the other part is a lot of times, you know, and the way things are viewed, it's sometimes the partners say, just get over it, you know, which in their head, they're thinking, all right, you have a cold, you'll get over it. You have depression, you'll get over it. You're substance abuse, you'll get over it. But, you know, obviously those are long extended problems that probably need professional help. And do you have anything like that on your website? Just curiosity, or maybe we can get something on there state like, hey, my partner's demonstrating these symptoms. What are the next steps?
Right. So there's a website that published by American Psychological Association, and that website is called div12 number 12.org. And what's nice, even if you're not a professional, you can go to this website and you can find the symptoms and the best therapist that helps to alleviate these symptoms. So that will help people to be informed before they go to a therapist. But in any case, when there's a depression, what happens is that the things that we do to feel great and to feel empowered and to feel that we have sense of accomplishment, these are the ones that go away first, right? So for example, if you exercise and then you feel depressed and you stop exercising, well, exercise is the best way to get out of it. But then the thing that's the best for you, you stop, right? If you have participate in some clubs, or you have some hobbies, and you stop those. So one way to recover, or at least alleviate the problem of depression, is to do things that you enjoy doing. Going for a walk, having intensive exercise where you can actually break sweat. Watch the movies, something that will bring you joy. And also the other thing is to be explicit, not to hold it inside. A lot of times people are afraid in the relationship to talk about their mental health issues. They bottle it all inside and say, I have to deal with it by myself. And that creates even more distance from your partner. Being able to be explicit. I know myself, sometimes everybody gets through depressive moods. That's just happens. I tell my wife, you know, I'm feeling like I'm on the depressed side of it. I'm going to take next 15 minutes. I'm going to lay in bed and I'll be back, right? So I make it explicit.
Only 15 minutes? Wow.
Right. And I go to the bedroom, I lay down, and I come out, say, I'm done. Thank you. Right.
Wow. All right.
Sometimes they're persistent. Sometimes no matter what you do, you can't shake it off, right?
Yeah.
Having this conversation with your partner and saying, this is where I am right now. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. I'm not ignoring you. I still love you, but I'm in a difficult place. And also to have that courage to ask for help. That's the biggest thing that we see, that people go through depression and they don't ask for help. But help is available. There's lots of good therapists that will work for you. And once you find a therapist that gets you and accepts you and understands you and is able to be there for you, then the symptoms will be reduced. And then once you get a little bit of exercise in or develop daily routines that you stick to, then you can slowly come out of it. Now, at some point, at some time, no matter what you do, you're still stuck in that rut, you know, and then there's nothing funky place, right? And a lot of people are hesitant to go to psychiatrists because there's a stigma assigned with it. If I go to psychiatrist, something wrong with me. I'm somehow broken. And maybe reassuring that person that taking care of your mental health does not mean you're broken. It means that we're all humans.
Well, I think what I like what you said about when you need your 15 minutes, you acknowledge it, you're not ashamed of it. I mean, it's your world. Both you and your wife are in that world. So obviously, hopefully you implement it in your own personal life. But there's such a negative connotation by, oh, you need help. I don't need a therapist. But we've talked about this a number of times. It's like if your arm is bleeding or you're hanging there, you're going to go to the doctor. If your head is not straight, your mind's not straight, you should go to a specialist who can help you get back on track. That's the one thing people battle with, I think, is that fear of being called crazy or something. Right,
and almost embracing who you are and accepting that sometimes you may get into a rut and sometimes you need some help. And what's nice that there are many nonprofit organizations that will provide low-cost services.
That's great.
And the reason this is important, because a lot of times when people study to be a therapist, they need to go through a practicum, right? And practicum, it's a place where they learn how to work with clients and they provide services to the clients. So finding that nonprofit organization will allow you to do it a very cost-effective way.
Is there, maybe if you don't have it on hand, but I'd like to get that even for our agency, because we work with a lot of individuals that have a lower income and do need some help, and it is costly. I mean, I know therapists that are charging $250 to $350 an hour, and it's
so here in Fullerton, in California, I run a nonprofit organization called Couples TLC, Tender Loving Care Counseling.org. We're a nonprofit organization. The costs are very low. Between what happened?
Oh, I was going to have Daniel write it down. He's done it by memory, but we'll get it from you, Daniel. Everyone, so he's our production guy. Anyway, but yeah, we'll get that. We'll post it on our website as well, because especially if there's a nonprofit arm to it. Not that, there's many people that can afford it, but there are many, many people that we work with that can't and need it, so, and then yours is more couples, and we'll see if there's other ones about depression and, individual that aren't couples, but that'd be great. It'd be very, very helpful.
Well, what's interesting that you find that even when you work with individuals, it's all about relationships.
Yes.
It's all about relationships. Even though we may have individual problems, maybe individual difficulties, childhood difficulties, but at the end, when it all narrows down to, how was your relationship with your mom? How's your relationship with your dad? How's your relationship with your siblings, your peers, your friends, your intimate partner, right? And even as you do individual therapy, we usually start focusing on interaction with other people, interpersonal relationships, and also relationship between you and the child within you, right? That's a big relationship, because that's the one that creates all the anxiety and the frustration. Right. So absolutely.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great, because we always look, and sometimes we find some, but if we can get a list, we'll put them on our website. Obviously, what their specialization. Obviously, have your your agency on there as well. That'll be helpful. We're out of time now, but I do want to make sure the next one we talk about is the real hard one, the end of life. You had talked about earlier. We were chatting before the podcast started. I mean, that has to be very tough, both for the couple and you as someone who's guiding them that way. But let's maybe next week or one of these podcasts we'll hit that, because that's a tough one, because you see that a lot, and
end of life care in a relationship is it's existential work, because you know that your partner is going to be gone, and trying to deal with that is really tough. So I'd be very happy to address that.
Yeah, let's work on that. But thank you for today. Again, if there's anxiety or substance abuse, it's a two-sided thing. I guess obviously look for professional help for both sides. A caregiver needs their time as well. I mean, everyone needs that time for their own time to take care of themselves, to keep them strong, as well as helping a partner through it. But to just do it yourself, I think you were saying professional care is a must.
Yeah, and also developing structure in your life, that helps a lot. Where things are known, because when things are unknown, anxiety creeps up, and also depression.
All right. That's awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. All right. Well, I appreciate it again. We'll get some uplifting topics soon. But thank you, Jack, for working on the tough stuff for sure, and helping us change mindsets to change outcomes and to save lives. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you, Stuart. It's always nice talking to you.
All right. Take care, Jack. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast, Movement for Change. We hope that our discussion has left you with new perspectives and insights that can help you change mindsets and save lives. Please visit us at getsafeusa.com for resources, trainings, and if there's a topic you want to hear about or you have questions, please email us at info@getsafeusa.com. Together, we can make the change we want to see.